On Arthur's Corner this time around, really pleased to be joined by Howard Eng. His book is called Pursuing the American Dream, Tucson Chinese-Owned Grocery Stores. What's happened in pursuing them, what's happened with them now. And again, if you look up the book, it's Howard J. Eng. And this is interesting because of so much of what we talked about off the air. I think you will find fascinating here on Author's Corner on America Tonight with me, Kate Delaney. Howard, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation.
So in your book, you talk about that during the gold rush era, what happened, how it started to explode, how there were, of course, thousands of Chinese immigrants, and as they were pursuing the American dream, and for many of them, that would be owning a grocery store. And in Tucson, Arizona, there were how many grocery stores at one point? And we're going to talk about that and then what's happened. So talk about that for us and the phenomenon of that.
Well, the era of the California gold rush, individuals from all over the world, especially in China, was intrigued by the gold rush and decided that they wanted to make their fortune in order to dig for gold. So in the southern part of China, they call the United States as Gold Mountain because of the gold rush. And many of those individuals, after the gold disappeared, decided to move eastward for other opportunities, such as in Tucson, Arizona.
Wow. So you think about the peak and you dive more into the research of this. What made you write this book?
Well, the reason why I wrote the book, this was in the early 1990s. I began to realize that many of my generation's kids had very little knowledge about the Chinese history in Tucson. In addition, there was a number of newcomers of Chinese descent, which also did not have any idea of the Chinese history in Tucson. And I decided that I needed to bridge that gap in terms of history knowledge.
And then the history is so interesting. So really, Chinese grocery stores at one point were really thriving, even though there's some pretty stiff competition, right?
Yes. I mean, if you take a look at, in the book, there is a map of the Chinese-owned grocery store in 1919, and in a very small area in Tucson, there was a lot of Chinese grocery stores in which they end up competing with each other. So the competition within the Chinese community that had Chinese-owned grocery store, it was very, very competitive.
So you have this competitive environment. There's definitely, it's become a boom, and definitely is feeding families for sure. And then what happens? How does it all decline, and when does that start?
Well, there's actually several reasons for the decline. One of the reasons for the decline was the urban renewal, which resulted in the convention center. They decided to demolish a good portion of the Barrio Viejo, and that wiped out a number of stores, and it also wiped out a number of the customer base for the Chinese grocery store in the area. And the stores that remained that was just south of that area, eventually they had to close. The other reason why there was a decline in the Chinese grocery store was the increased number of supermarkets. And the supermarkets, the Chinese groceries, could not compete because they offer such a large variety of groceries, and the prices were lower. And as a result, people, for example, in the downtown area, which I mentioned, Barrio Viejo, ended up going to some of those supermarkets. So the remaining amount of groceries that's purchased was what's left over in terms of what wasn't bought or something that was needed daily. Then there was the convenience stores. In 1960, there was only 4 Circle K's. By the time in 1991, there was 155. So the competition from the non-Chinese-owned grocery stores was enormous. The other reason, probably the primary reason why the Chinese grocery store declined, was the fact that many of our parents did not want us to go into the grocery store business. The hours are long. You work between 12 to 14-hour days. You work 7 days a week. There was no break for holidays. There was no break for vacation. And there was no really benefits other than, you provided for Social Security. So primarily, our parents wanted us to pursue other occupations.
And your parents, of course, initially sold groceries from the back of their truck for almost 10 years, and then they ran their first grocery store. What was that like?
Well, my parents sold grocery in rural Arizona for about 9 years. They went as far north as Eloy, Arizona, which is just outside of Casa Grande, and went as far south as the To'odham Reservation. It was long hours. They got up really early in the morning, and they sold until late at night before they came home. And they did that for 9 years, as I mentioned. And in addition to that, the only roads that were available, there wasn't any. Most of the time, my dad had to drive over either wagon trail or horse trails to get to some of the homes in the rural areas.
Wow. And in this book, what is so fascinating is you tell stories from all these different people. And as you're saying, to share with the generations, it's like 85 different stories. Was that fun for you to hear these stories of all these different families?
I think that the most remarkable thing is that actually there's 88 stories.
Wow.
And these are actually written by the individuals themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so the stories consist of, there was 5 families that told stories about their grocery truck that I mentioned earlier. The grocery truck basically is a truck on a store on wheels. So there was a mini store behind the truck. And unlike the other delivery type trucks, which only took orders and just delivered, there's 5 stories about them. There are several stories told by the owners of the stores, indicated why they went into the grocery store business, what was the challenges, what was the benefits. And the other 2 sections of the stories included stories told by either the kids that grew up in a grocery store or even grandkids. What was it like growing up in a grocery store, and what was the benefit of having a grocery store?
Wow. So when people read your book, which you can get for a song on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Pursuing the American Dream, Tucson Chinese-Owned Grocery Stores, and of course, Howard J. Ng, that's who we are speaking with. Howard, what do you hope they take away?
Well, I think that those who read the book, I hope they gain an understanding of the Chinese history in Tucson. It covers 150 years. From the mid-1870s to present. I also hope that they are able to take away in terms of understanding how the Chinese-owned grocery stores provide the means to pursue the American dream, and also get insight into what are the challenges like in terms of in a very competitive environment in order to survive that grocery store.
Yeah, I mean, just fascinating too to realize what it took. I mean, the grit. I think my takeaway was, and I have the Kindle version, is the grit to me, the grit of the people. Do you feel that way?
Yes, I think so. I think that the other thing to take away from the book is the fact that Chinese-owned grocery stores are not limited to Tucson, Arizona. It's fairly universal across the country. There were a large number of Chinese-owned grocery stores in various California communities, as well as in Houston, Texas, as well as in the Delta region in Mississippi. So if you want to gain an insight in terms of a group of immigrants that wanted to pursue the dream by having a Chinese-owned grocery store, I think this is a very good book to provide that insight.
I agree with that. Howard, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate the invitation.